Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The Palestinian militant group Hamas says Fatah Sharif Abu el-Amin, the group's leader in Lebanon, has been killed along with some family members in an Israeli airstrike in the south of the country. Hamas says he was killed in a strike on his home in the Al-Bas camp in South Lebanon. Meanwhile, emergency services attended the scene of an Israeli strike in Beirut that the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine says killed 3 of its leaders. In a televised address earlier, Hezbollah's deputy chief, Sheikh Naim Qassem, said Hezbollah would keep up the fight against Israel. There are expectations that Israel will soon carry out a land invasion of Lebanon, with tanks growing in number on the border. Separately, the Lebanese government says it is ready to fully implement a UN resolution that had aimed to end Hezbollah's armed presence south of the Litani River as part of an agreement to stop the war with Israel. At least 30 people have died and scores more are unaccounted for in just one county in North Carolina after Hurricane Helen tore across the state and caused catastrophic flooding. A clearer image of the damage the storm inflicted after barreling through Florida and Georgia emerged throughout Sunday, with Buncombe County appearing to be the hardest hit area. At least 116 people have died nationwide since the hurricane made landfall in Florida on Thursday, and that figure is expected to rise as officials reach more areas. Marine Le Pen, the longtime leader of France's far-right National Rally and presidential hopeful, is going on trial in Paris accused of misusing European parliamentary funds. More than 20 other senior figures in the party are also facing the same charges. They are accused of hiring assistants who worked on party affairs rather than for the European Parliament, which paid them. If Le Pen is found guilty, she could face fines and imprisonment and potentially be declared ineligible to run for office for up to 10 years, hitting her presidential ambitions. Jens Stoltenberg will step down today after 10 years as NATO's Secretary General, to be replaced by the former Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte. Stoltenberg held his final NATO summit as chief on July the 9th. It has been rumoured he may take over as chair of the Munich Security Conference when he finishes his term. Stoltenberg, a former Prime Minister of Norway, has been the Transatlantic Security Alliance's leader since 2014, and his tenure had already been extended 3 previous times. Britain will become the first G7 country to end coal-fired power production with the closure of its last plant, Uniper's Ratcliffe-on-Sour in England's Midlands. It will end over 140 years of coal power in Britain. In 2015, Britain announced plans to close coal plants within the next decades as part of wider measures to reach its climate targets. At that time, almost 30% of the country's electricity came from coal, but this has fallen to just over 1% last year. The drop in coal power has helped cut Britain's greenhouse gas emissions, which have more than halved since 1990. A SpaceX capsule sent to bring back 2 astronauts stranded on the International Space Station has docked.
Freedom arriving!
The Dragon capsule, which has 2 empty seats for Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams, docked at 5:30 Eastern Time.
Next up is Crew 9 Commander Nick Hague.
The pair arrived at the station on Boeing's new Starliner capsule for an 8-day mission in June, but were forced to remain there because of a fault discovered during the flight. They are now expected to return to Earth in February. The Dragon capsule lifted off from Cape Canaveral in Florida on Saturday, carrying NASA astronaut Nick Hague and Russian cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov. And thousands of New Zealanders have broken the Guinness World Record for the most number of people performing The Haka in Auckland. New Zealanders turned out in force to Eden Park to participate in the event and take the record back from France, who broke it a decade ago in 2014. While the official number is still being tallied, Guinness World Record adjudicator Brian Sobel told those gathered they had broken the record. The Haka is a Maori ceremonial war dance and is often performed by a group. It is popularly performed by New Zealand rugby teams before the start of a match. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.